This is an overview video of how to use the Assembly Imposters app and custom feature. So open up the CADSharp Toolbox, and if you are within an assembly, you can open up the Assembly Imposter app. So this tool is for inserting reference parts or parts that have been predefined somewhere. You can insert them in place of imposter parts. So a quick demo to show you what this does in the end. I'm going to insert some pipes that I created with Routing Curve Plus that has it's compatible with Assembly Imposters. So I'll insert that part studio. Not as rigid. If you insert it as rigid, this currently doesn't support that. So just insert the whole thing. And then we'll group it. Fix the main part in place. Okay, now everything's in place. So these parts are just template parts marked as imposters. And each one automatically knows from the Routing Curve Plus feature where its original part is located, the URL for it. So if we click Insert Reference Parts, what the app does is it goes through and it searches for all instances within the assembly with make connectors marked as imposters. And then it gets the data from those make connectors and finds the URL of the original part. And then it starts mating those original parts to the imposter parts. There we go. It's finished. And so now we've got the original parts in here that are properly inserted into the assembly. So if we look at the BOM, so these two elbows are now properly counted. And if we look at these two over here, these are also properly counted in the BOM. And each of the pipes have the OD, ID, and optionally, I guess, the bend radius and the angle. So let's go over how to get this to work. You could set up something similar with the frames feature. So we'll first go to the routing curve example because it's the easiest. You can also do it manually without the routing curve feature. That's what the Assembly Imposter app feature, custom feature is for. But if you're doing pipe routing, then you might as well use the routing curve. So let's get rid of this red pipe here. And we'll use the routing curve plus feature just in case you don't have it. You can right click on it and open linked document. Then there should be a button up here called Add Custom Features. And then click on Routing Curve Plus and it will add it to your toolbar. Okay, so we're going to route a pipe from this hole to this hole using the Routing Curve Plus. So let's make sure it's set to polyline. And this first point is going to reference a vertex. And then we'll select the make connector option right there, like that. I like to use the add point on axis drag. So now if we drag in the Z direction locally, it starts creating that next point. And now on the second point, make sure you change the reference mode from vertex to relative. That's important. Okay, and because we were dragging it in the Z direction, Routing Curve Plus detects that you want to move in a Z direction up to an entity maybe. So you can click on the up to entity for the Z direction, and we'll click this make connector here. Okay, next we'll drag it in the X direction, and it's detecting it wants weight that we want to move it in the X direction. So we'll click on this up to entity X and also click that make connector. And then we'll move it in the Y direction and select the Y entity. Okay, so it just took a few simple clicks to route it from this hole all the way to this one while referencing each previous bend. So if this changes, then these will automatically update and stay with this hole. So next we need to make sure that we have a bend radius. So we'll put this at 4 inches. Oh, let's do 3 inches. 2. Okay. And finally, let's add some pipe routing to it. So click this pipe routing button. And it's currently, we'll need assembly imposters too. So there we go. We'll type in OD. So let's say 1.5 and the ID is 1.25. Then we'll pick the color. We'll do red. And it's pre-filled with, or the assembly imposter inputs need configuration names for whichever part you're referencing. So we've got the straight pipes URL. This is a URL to the configured straight pipe version. And then the pipe elbows. And here's the URL that goes to the configured elbows. And those are versioned documents. It has to be a version, a reference to a version. So for each of those, the configuration names for the ID and the OD are just ID and OD. And then the configuration for length is here. Bend radius, bend angle. So these are pre-filled for these specific example templates, but you can replace those with your own and it will remember the previous value here. So that's all you need to do. And now it should be good to go. So we'll go over to the assembly and we'll remove everything in here. Okay, and insert. We'll just insert the red parts for this test. Okay, and group together. Then make sure one is fixed in place. And now when we open up the app, go to Assembly Imposters, we can insert the reference parts. So it automatically detects which configuration you wanted for each part. So the color, the OD, the ID, the bend radius, and it's done. So now if we open up the BOM, looks like this BOM needs to be refreshed maybe. There we go. Okay, now it's refreshed. So It's properly showing 2 elbows here, and then 3 different pipe straights. And if we want to remove these imposters, or remove the original references, there's a button here for this. So as long as they've got their original mates in here, it will remove the mates and the parts together. There we go. Now we're back to just the template parts, the imposters. Okay, that's how you do it with Routing Curve Plus. It automatically fills out the configurations. It's really set up for streamlining it, but you can manually do it as well. But before we do that, let's go to one of the configurations. So let's go over to Assembly Imposters, nope, Routing Curve, and I'll show you how these were configured. So here is a pipe elbow. Oops, that's the wrong one. We want the routing curve. So I'll open this up, grab the URL for the straight pipe, and then let's go there. So this is a version. And we've got the OD, the ID, and the length configured, as well as the color. And then for the pipe elbow, we've got OD, ID, color, bend angle, and bend radius. So one important thing to note is that when you set up a configured part for use with assembly imposters, the part needs to have one mate connector right there, wherever you want it to be grabbing this part from. So it takes that one mate connector and it puts it in sync with the assembly imposter part. Now you might be able to have more mate connectors, but the first one needs to be the correct one. And if it's something like a bend, and I usually have those bends in the X direction. Okay. So that's how to do it with the routing curve. Now let's do a manual example. So let's say you had frames or any kind of part, and you didn't need to use the routing curve feature with it. Maybe it was something that gets patterned in the part studio and it's easiest to pattern it there. Then what you can do is we'll use, let's use one of these elbows, or we can use the straights as an example. So I'll delete all these. And we'll delete that. Okay. And we're just going to insert so what we can do is make a configured part that we're going to insert here. So let's sketch on this plane, and we're just going to make a cube 1 by 1 and extrude it like that. And we'll make some quick variables for this. So this will be the width. And this is the y. Oops, not yards. Okay. So let's say for whatever reason, it was best that you define where these are located here in this part studio, and you were able to automate it easier that way with custom features. So you could have this represent your part. And we'll put a make connector here. Actually, no, the assembly imposter will do that. Okay. So let's make a part that can be configured like this. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a cube, but we'll make a new part studio. Configure to cube. Okay, this is going to be X, and this needs to be a configuration variable. Then this will be Y, configuration variable. And then we will extrude it. Z. Okay, so now we have it configured with X, Y, and Z configuration variables. So if we change one of these values, it changes it. And we could also do color. So we'll add another configuration variable, text, and we'll call it color. Default to white. And then we can use the property attribute feature. It's a custom feature for setting any kind of property or attribute. So we'll set the appearance, right-click the hexadecimal input and convert it to expression. Now we can use a variable in here instead of just typing. So color, now it uses our configured color, and we want this part. So now if we change this to red, it changes. So there are our configurations, X, Y, Z, and color. Now this needs to be a versioned part studio. If you try to grab the URL like this, where it's a workspace, not a version, then it's not going to work. So we'll version it. Added cube. Okay, and then we need to go view that version. So added cube. And we're in the cube URL right here, the cube tab. You can see it has a little V right here for version. So we'll grab this URL. Now we'll go back to main. So I copied that. Okay. Now let's use that URL that we just copied and put it into the assembly imposter feature. So here's the feature. And we're going to put that URL right there. And then it wants to know where the imposters are going to be. So we'll put one right here. So click this part. And then for the origin, we want it to be right there. Now the way we drew this was where the width was this way, or the X was this way, and the Y was this way. So let's rotate that make connector until it's facing the correct direction there. Okay, and our part does have configurations. So we want to add a configuration. This one's going to be X, and it's going to be the X value. We made variables up here so that we can just pass those directly into this. We'll add another configuration called Y. And we forgot to do the Z variable. So let's make another variable called Z and put it right beneath the XY variables. And now when we go to the extrude, we need to use that. Okay, now let's put Z in here. So Z, Z, okay. And one more for the color. So we'll make another variable here called, it'll be any, and it'll be called color. And we'll make it has to be in quotations for if you're using the any variable type. So we'll do red. Okay, and that goes right up there. So now let's add color to that. There it is. So we've got the X, Y, Z, and color configurations assigned to that. So now that that's there, we can do this multiple times. So we could pattern it. Now, I'm not sure if we need to include these in the imposter feature or if the pattern is going to, oh no, I know. If we're going to linear pattern, then we need to do a feature pattern and pattern this assembly imposter feature as well and reapply it. Can we reapply it? We'll see if that works because it's using these make connector feature IDs to store the data. If that doesn't work, then we can manually go in here and add more instances to this. So let's insert, first let's get rid of all these for the test. Now we can insert this one, group everything together, fix one of them in place. So let's see if it works. So we'll open this up. I'm going to go to the toolbox view instead. Okay, now there's a chance it may just put it on the first one. If it does, then we'll have to go see why. Okay, it pulled them into the assembly, but it did not mate them because it couldn't find where to put them. Oh, I know the problem. I forgot to put a make connector on our configured cube. So let's put a make connector here. Control M, no. Here we go. Okay, and we'll have to version this. And then go grab the new URL to the new version. Okay, return to main. And let's get rid of these old ones. Okay, now let's replace the URL with the new one. Okay, and we'll see if that works. There it is. So what this should have done is inserted 6 of the original parts in place of the imposter parts. So you'll see they're overlapping. And the assembly bomb is properly counting 6. And the imposters are hidden from the bomb due to the imposter feature. And that is how assembly imposters works. Let us know if you have any questions, and enjoy.